We're looking at what bivariate data is. So the word bi means two, like when I talk about a bicycle, two wheels on it. Okay, so the word bi means two, and bivariate means two variables. So we're looking at data, we're investigating two variables. And both of these variables must be numeric, so they're quantitative. Okay, one of them must be a measurement and the other one could be a measurement or could be a count. But generally speaking, both of them will usually just be both measurement variables. This means that each person or each object has got two measurements made. So for example, I might measure somebody's height and somebody's weight. So each person gets two measurements made on them. So we represent bivariate data on a scatter graph, and as you can see there, we've got height versus weight on that scatter graph on the right hand side. So there's our two variables. We've got x-axis and a y-axis, and we put our two measurements there. And each of those points on the graph represents a person with these two measurements. So for example, I've got a graph here of hours spent studying and the score on their final exam. And the question I've got here is how many hours of study did the student who got 85% do? So 85%, that's their score on their final exam. And we are so looking for between 80 and 90. So halfway between 80 and 90 will be our 85. So I'm going to go across there and then I locate the point which is at that 85%. I then go down and look, right, how many hours did they spend studying? And in this case, they spent 8 hours studying. So I can identify any single point on this graph. So that's our first step, is recognizing each point represents a person with two measurements. As we go on further, we'll look at trends and what the patterns overall tell us. Let's reverse this now. If I want to find the final exam score for a student who spent 1 hour studying, I'm going to start with 1 hour studying, that's on my horizontal axis, and I'm going to go up until I find that person, and that person got a score of 50. So that tells me they got 50% in their final exam after studying 1 hour. So what is the reason for us doing this? The reason for bivariate investigation is to look and see, is there a relationship between these two variables? That is the key idea with bivariate, is we're looking to see, is there a relationship? So for example, if I spend more hours studying, does that make a difference in my exam score? If I spent less hours studying, does that make a difference? So is there any relationship between how many hours I study for and the score on my exam? And that's the key, is we're trying to find, is there a relationship between two quantitative variables?